Sometimes in life we just suffer. Sometimes it's from being totally withdrawn, or so much stress that we are totally anxious, or so tired that we are totally burnt out. But our current position is not our final destination. No, indeed. There's hope. So whether it's your personal life, your career, your relationship, your business, or your job, we say there's reason to believe again. And we present from Andy's personal development, the breakout room. It's the place for health, happiness, and prosperity. Stay tuned for more. Our next guest in the breakout room is the founder of Heal and Thrive Psychotherapy and Coaching. Her name is Mahsa Hojat-Khoshniyat. The experience includes 12 years of helping people improve and repair their relationships. She says, I also assist individuals and couples with overcoming anxiety, sadness, fear, isolation, and the inability to trust or build meaningful relationships. This is our guest. Dr. Mahsa is also a certified clinical trauma professional. So, let's welcome this passionate psychotherapist and coach, Mahsa Hojat-Khoshniyat, live in the breakout. Okay, so we're gonna stand by as we go live on Facebook. Okay, people, welcome to the breakout room. This is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, and we are live with our special guest. She's Dr. Mahsa Hojat-Khoshniyat, and she was born in Iran and has a very fascinating story to tell us today. But I will give her the opportunity to introduce herself because it's really an intriguing introduction about her background, her life, her story. And so, Dr. Mahsa, the floor is all yours. Let's hear your story, particularly from the perspective of coming out of Iran, where you were born. Share with us, please.
Hi, Andy. Hello to your listeners and viewers. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Let me first apologize. I'm nursing a cold, so I might be coughing. I apologize in advance. I'm okay. It sounds way worse than it is.
Okay.
Thanks again for having me. So
Sure.
yes, I'm Iranian. I came from Iran when I was 20 years old, and I really would like to take this opportunity to not only tell you about my story, but to also talk about the plight of my people.
Yeah.
And what they're going through. If you're following the news from Iran, what you're seeing is probably 50-fold what we went through. And I really wanted to bring it to the attention of the world that my people are suffering and they don't deserve it. All they're asking for is basic human rights.
Mm-hmm.
And that is being taken by a set of people who are basically trying to control the country.
Yeah.
To give you perspective of who I am and where I come from an amazing country.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to blow our own horn, just the truth.
No, come on. No. I don't think you are.
Thank you. One of our values is to be humble, so I'm trying to be mindful of that.
All right.
Iran is a very rich culture and civilization. You know, we started with Persia, right? We expanded over the whole area. We were the first people that came up with human rights, and there was a declaration of human rights, equal religion, equal language, equal rights to practice. And so I'm 42. So when
Yeah.
I was born right after the Iran and Iraq war.
Okay.
Actually, in the middle of it, to be
Uh-huh.
very
Yeah.
honest,
Yeah.
and the tail of it. So I'm growing up in this amazing, beautiful, rich culture, good people, tremendous values of humanity, valuing others,
Yeah.
humble education, but in an environment with a dictatorship that uses a form of religion, whether it's true or not, true religion or not, to, in essence, suffocate and repress its people.
Okay.
So it creates an interesting world for a young girl to grow up with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The family
Yeah.
was very progressive. The people who I were around were very progressive. They were very educated and believed in education, open-mindedness, open thinking. But when I would step out of the door,
Yeah.
I had this repressive environment that as a woman, I didn't necessarily have rights.
Okay.
As a second-class citizen, anybody from the regime or their followers felt
Yeah.
the right to dismiss me, even violate my body, gropings and stuff, yell at you just because they could. And you
Yeah.
really didn't have anywhere to do or like get your rights, being heard. So in that duality, it creates a kind of interesting resilience.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Because you're learning in the family environment, in your own little community environment, that what is right and what is wrong, what you deserve, what's important. And then you're being oppressed otherwise. So the message, as you can see with my people back home, is we're not going to take it, even if all we have is our bodies to defend it. Well, we couldn't at the time, right? We couldn't, as it is now, you couldn't say it. The freedom of speech didn't exist. So you say the wrong thing, piss off the wrong person, there was this reality of being taken, apprehended, tortured, killed, what have you, nobody knowing what happened to you. So there's this innate fear of what can happen, but it's constantly being opposed by, but this is not okay. So it really gives opportunity a new meaning.
Yeah.
So growing up in this duality, in this environment, again, hearing these different stories, I'm being pushed into my head. Think about education, think about doing the right thing, be there for people, stand up for what's right, find ways when there seems to be no way.
Yeah.
Make sure you give to those who don't have it. And don't give in, right?
Okay.
There was a strong message of you're not going to give in to them. You just have to find alternatives. You just have to be creative.
Yeah.
So at this point, I'm 18, actually 20 years old. And I'm in college, I'm studying nursing. I'm 2 years into it. My brother calls and says, you got to come here. He had just moved here for 6 months going to school.
Yeah.
But you have to come. I'm like,
Right.
but what in school is like, I don't know. You got to do something. You have to come. Granted, he's only migrated 6 months. It's just barely, getting grounded here. So my family's like, okay, then let's do it. So my mother and I, we move over here. And I get to college and they tell me, well, we're not going to accept any of your credits.
Okay.
And I'm like, they say, if you haven't studied anything else, it would have been fine, but you can't accept any of these. Now, I don't really speak English at this point. I thought I did till I got here. So they're telling me, okay, start taking your college, English classes, maybe a couple of math classes. Then eventually in a couple of years, you can start taking regular classes and then see where you end up. Well, I didn't grow up that way. You don't get opportunities. When you get, you run.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, all right. So let's just start with English and math. And let's see what else I can put in there. And so pretty much I finished my college with 2 years and 2.5. And I moved into the university, transferred. But this whole time, I had to have a dictionary next to me. I had to kind of figure out what it was saying because the language was always a barrier. But the way I had been raised, you didn't just accept things because the way they
Yeah,
were.
yeah.
You had to persevere, and it wasn't like you had extra time.
Okay.
That's
So,
kind of like how my journey went.
right. So here's the thing, Masa, doctor. I'm looking at the information here and I'm seeing that your experience has been very personal and important to you, particularly from a family perspective. And I'm seeing the words resilience, the importance of education, opening doors of opportunity, sacrifice, and taking control of one's choices. And I'm thinking, did part of, or maybe the majority of what encouraged you to take up your line of study in terms of the medical field, was it mainly because of your personal experiences, or was it because of something that you saw in the US? Because you would have seen so many different things as compared to what you had experienced back in Iran. So I'm curious because it's a very interesting field that you took up with trauma studies and mental illnesses, schizophrenia, and so on. What made you choose that particular field of study in the medical world?
You know, I feel like my path was set for me from the
Uh-huh.
moment I was born. It's an
Yeah.
interesting story. I remember I grew up very privileged.
Yeah.
I had a very kind, protective family. I didn't know about a lot of bad things that were going on in the world.
Okay.
But when I was in a school, I would tend to find the ones that are most isolated. Now, in reflection, I know that they were very abused,
Okay.
very hurt. And somehow I would gravitate towards them. So, in essence, the minorities.
Okay.
I think it all solidified for me. I was in second grade. I was playing with this girl who was really rejected by the whole school and the students and the teachers because she was aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
right? But to me, I just saw her hurt.
Yeah.
And one day we're playing, I'm running behind her.
Yeah.
And I fall, and I trip and I fall. Everybody, all the school teachers, everybody fell in front of them, runs and comes and sees me. And they start to gang up against her and say that she had pushed me. And at 8 years old, I'm like screaming, how could she push me? She's ahead of me. That is impossible. And I felt like no one heard.
Mm-hmm.
I remember very precisely, we are in the classroom, she's standing in the corner, hands kind of crossed and angry. And I'm standing in front of her and I'm pleading.
Yeah.
That she couldn't have pushed me. I was behind her. She didn't do anything and it didn't mean a thing.
Wow.
That I think was the spark of I just couldn't bear the innocence and the dismissal. I knew she had bad behaviors, but I saw something in her, you know.
Yeah.
So when I came to US, I had another misfortunate experience where somebody who was helping us acclimate, I went to Santa Monica College.
Yeah.
Started to point like, stay away from these people. And they're gang members, and they're this, and they're that. And of course, tell me no, and I'm gonna go and exactly look for it. So right away, I'm like, okay, I want to know who the gangs are. And I started to study them. It was as if I was hearing her story. You know, so I already knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know what it was called.
Okay. All right.
And then through education and a lot of mentorship,
Yeah.
they really pointed me to the right direction.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. So tell us some of the things that people are challenged with regards to childhood trauma. Let's deal with that first, then we could go on to relationship trauma and stuff. But children, in terms of what they experience, and I'll tell you why I ask you that. A couple of days ago, I had a gentleman by the name of Martin Salama, and he is known as the architect of the Warriors LIFE code, which is live intentionally full every day. And he said when he was 10 years of age, he lost his 5-year-old brother
Mm,
in a vehicular accident.
mm.
And he did not get closure from that experience until he was 50 years of age. And I mean, so he had to carry that for like 40 years. What would you have said to him, let's say, if he had the opportunity to speak with you now in your professional forte position with regards to how he should have dealt with an experience like that, that he had to live it for 40 years until one day he realized, I need to let it go?
The first thing I would have said is that I'm so sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
That I am so sorry for two reasons. I am
yes.
so sorry that he had experienced that loss.
Mm-hmm.
And I am so sorry that he was alone
Okay.
in that experience.
Yeah.
That maybe because people were grieved themselves, because it was such a significant loss, because there
Mm-hmm.
was a lack of opportunity.
Yeah.
Nobody saw him,
Okay.
his struggle.
Right, right.
And then I would attempt to sit with him and help him feel safe.
Okay.
Because there is that 10-year-old in him remembering that experience, and ask him to talk
Okay.
and share with
Yeah.
me what it was like.
Yeah.
True, that is as if we get transported to his 10-year-old self, but this time with me present.
Okay.
And allow him to feel what he couldn't feel,
Mm-hmm.
express what he couldn't express,
Okay.
grieve the way he couldn't,
Yeah.
with me
Yeah.
using the own person,
Uh-huh.
caring, nurturing, holding, attending to his 10-year-old self. Because in essence, he's locked in the not understanding what happened to him.
Okay.
And through this process, as he understands and shares, and I provide him with other perspectives and help him see, instead of just that this episode, the whole spectrum of what was going on around him, to provide him this closure of what happened, why it happened, how it happened, why did people respond the way they did.
Yeah.
His 10-year-old self couldn't have understood.
Okay.
And in that is this unlocking of the trauma memory,
Right, right.
where all these different neural networks kind of become this narrative, this cohesive narrative that is now stored as a memory rather than little pieces that can get triggered. And oftentimes what clients say is that they say, I feel relieved. Or they come back and say, the next time I thought about my brother, I didn't feel that same way because the healing had happened.
Okay.
Allows them to then go on to do so much more.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. Thank you for sharing. So I want to look at this from a really practical perspective. And imagine that you are speaking to an audience of young people and you are telling them that they need to develop coping skills, resilience. Is it simply a matter of a paradigm shift in the way that they think, or is it a combination of that and also some form of knowledge that you would share with them, practical things that they can do to develop those skills where their emotional response is based on what they need to do rather than what that thing is having on them? How do you put that two together?
I appreciate you asking this. So I have developed, in a sense, my own model.
Okay.
I do psychodynamic attachment, CBT, mindfulness, many different models incorporated.
Yeah.
It all starts with this understanding that who we are is very much affected by how we experience the world early on and then on,
Okay.
and how that affected our inner working model, our perspective of the world from
Yeah.
the down deep inside, not
Yeah.
just think, but really biologically too.
Okay. Yeah.
So the idea is, first I have to build this experience of trust and safety, where the person not only thinks that they're safe, but feels it in their inner body, in their basically survival.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's this sense of safety and comfort,
Right.
through which then we're able to build the understanding of why they are the way they are. So what is happening in the now has a connection to the past.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't to go to the past and then start to review what happened to the past.
Yeah. Yeah.
But understand how this has a connection to the past and what do we need to do with that core to help the here and now.
Right.
Idea is resolving the now by
Mhm.
insight from the past. Through this work, the person, in a sense, restructures their personality. This is a very deep work and it requires a lot out of me because it really
Yeah.
helps my whole person, my whole being,
Yeah.
to provide what wasn't provided.
Okay.
In essence, I help the person rebuild their sense of self,
Mm-hmm.
their values, their principles. I always talk about, this is not all about the outside of the house. This is
Yeah.
about the foundation.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it that you stand for? I say, I'm a little dark, I apologize, but I say, if there's a gun to your head, what will you not do? What will go against your truth, humanity?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the core principle
Okay.
that grounds us. And from there, everything happens. And that's, I mean, throughout the whole process, there are tons of techniques.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I'm always pulling in technique,
Yeah.
but this is marrying,
Mm-hmm.
building a foundation from which then they can go on
Yeah.
whatever they want and not need me.
Yeah. 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 I get it. I get it. So here's the thing. You have this situation where, and I'm just using my imagination a bit. The trauma is happening to a young person, and the parents need to understand what is happening, and they need to provide some level of support for that person, that young person, their son or their daughter. What are some of the things that you would say to the parents that they would need to do to help change the environment and to create one of support and love and understanding so that that person can really heal and recover?
So when it comes to children, there are two dynamics at play.
Yeah.
There are the parents and the children they once were that is
Uh-huh.
still with them,
Okay.
the way they get triggered. And it's the reality of the child that is now and what this child experiences.
Right.
So in essence, I'm addressing both.
Mm-hmm.
I'll give you a real honest example.
Yeah.
I had a consultation years ago. This woman came into the session with her child. The child was
Mhm.
acting up. She was having a really hard time.
Okay.
As I'm doing an assessment with mom, I gave the kid some toys to play. It's like dolls and house and stuff. As we're talking, I'm looking at what she is playing. She's setting up the house. There's a mother and daughter. The daughter is asking mom to watch TV and engage with her and sit down with her. And mom's like, no, I'm busy. Mom is going all over the place. The kid is following her. And I said, look, your kid is telling you what she needs. She's like, no, what do you mean? Like, it's not it. I'm like, no, she is telling us.
Yes.
That all of these external things are going to divorce, all that is happening.
Yeah. Yeah.
Taking you away from her.
Mm-hmm.
In her game, she's giving us her ideals and wants and desires. So I had to help the mom to deal with her own emotions, to then have the emotional capacity to understand her own daughter. I do that with my own child. I have a 5-year-old, beautiful, super sweet, very intelligent, has a PhD,
All right.
his own challenges and gifts.
Yeah.
And she gets dysregulated easily. Quickly starts crying for no reason, appears to me for no reason. I have to be careful with that. And she's just dysregulated. I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, you're 5 years old. You don't need to cry, communicate. What I'm forgetting is that this is her biology.
Mm.
We needs some sugar in her system
Yeah.
to start calming the nervous system down.
Okay.
As soon as I prep that breakfast, she
Uh-huh.
eats something. I have a completely different kid.
Wow.
And I have to again be careful of like, this was me.
Yes.
I was adding to her frustration because I was
Mm.
letting her.
Wow.
Because I'm seeing it in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the apology, I know if that comes from. So it's really this duality.
Great. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. So we have Dr. Mahsa live here in the breakout room sharing some very interesting and very important information about dealing with childhood trauma. And now I want to take her to the point where we are dealing with relationships with regards to, let's say, husband and wife who are experiencing some level of imbalance. And because of that, whatever that happened between them, maybe it was an accident, maybe somebody lost their job, maybe it was a situation where they made a bad investment, and now the relationship, the marriage is being threatened as a result of that negative thing that took place. What are some of the challenges that you have seen in your practice with people of a similar nature? And what are some of the guidelines you would give them to help them overcome that trauma and make better decisions for themselves?
So there are two things I look in a relationship.
Yeah.
The strength of the relationship or the
Mhm.
core or the foundation of the relationship. What is
Yeah.
this relationship is based on?
Okay.
So if I have a couple that the relationship is based on love, mutual understanding, there is a best friend situation or was at some point,
Yeah.
I have a lot to work with.
Okay.
I have a lot of material. So the core, the foundation is there.
Mm-hmm.
Fondness of each other that existed at some point.
Right.
Something happened, these outside stressors, such as loss of job,
Yeah.
pressured and caused distance or separation.
Yeah.
I often say to the clients that like you have lost your way. You're kind of
Mm-hmm.
like passing each other. You're not
Yeah. Yeah.
reconnecting. So the goal is to help them reconnect to that understanding they once had.
Okay.
What is this relationship about? What does that mean? It's about how do we control the stressors, practical skills to manage the stressors, practical skills to make time for each other, improve communication, be able to see eye to eye. But the deeper work is what is the experiences one and what is the experience of the other? And can they switch places?
Okay.
Oftentimes in relationship, there is a rift because we cannot understand what the other person is going through.
Yeah. Yeah.
And coming up with our own conclusions based on our own experiences.
Right.
That furthers the rift. When there is this mutual understanding, it's amazing how empathic people become.
Yeah.
And how they come up with the solutions.
Okay. Great. So how do you incorporate cognitive behavioral therapy, particularly into a situation like that? Let's put a little twist on it. Let's just imagine that the relationship is not built on that warm, fuzzy foundation, but it was more of some sort of an arrangement. And then this happened, and then they come to you. How does cognitive behavioral therapy help to deal with that situation?
So, being very forthcoming, I use cognitive behavior therapy as a set of skills rather than a modality.
Okay. Okay.
But I feel psychodynamic takes it a layer further, and I
Yeah.
like that about it.
Yeah.
So in a situation like that, I would bring the clients, use some CBT,
Mm-hmm.
cognitive behavioral therapy, to try to understand the purpose of being in a marriage.
Yeah.
The motivation, the arrangement. What was the arrangement? Why was it important? How did it help them? So it's very cognitive, right? It's very thinking.
Yeah.
The relationship was based on thinking.
Okay.
When we understand the thinking parts of things, okay,
Mhm.
why do we want to be with each other? Why is it important? How do we want to change our thinking in
Yeah.
relation?
Yeah.
changing our negative thinking, maybe stopping with, rumination, and instead, rumination is like repeating negative thoughts. Kind of like practicing the skills of like externalizing thoughts or letting them go,
Mm-hmm.
using some meditation to calm nervous systems. Then we come into, can we find ways for you to now connect on a deeper level?
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can we bring, like, what are your values? What's important? And if it's not there and they still want to be together, then going back to CBT, what are specific techniques we can put in place that you can work well together? Because that's okay. Some people like it that way, and that's all right too,
Right.
right? So what are the day-to-day practices to make this marriage smooth?
Okay. Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Massa. Thanks for sharing. Um, I have an interesting theory, and sometimes I think about, let's say, for example, a team, a soccer team, a basketball team, a baseball team, and they are traveling somewhere, like in a state or from country to country, and something happens, an accident takes place, couple players are injured, and maybe one or two may die. I don't want to stretch it too much, but I know these things have happened before. But then the day comes that they have to go out on the field and play. But this thing is on their mind, and they can't focus on the game, the position that they play, whether it be forward or center or back or whatever it is. They just cannot focus. How can you help them to deal with that trauma, the negative impact of the accident or whatever it was, so that they could then focus on the task at hand?
So there are two things. There's survival guilt. Why
Mm-hmm.
did I survive and the other didn't?
Okay, right.
And it's grief, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Grief, I forgot who said it, it's one of the grief experts. He said, grief is like a targetless arrow,
Mm-hmm.
right? As long
Yeah.
as it doesn't have a place to go, it just lingers around.
Right.
So as far as why am I alive and they're gone? I would bring the team together and I would first debrief them on what happened, right? You provide them an opportunity to talk about what happened. There's the thing about trauma. Trauma doesn't become stuck when
Mm-hmm.
it's processed, talked about, felt, understood, and validated. It goes out of the body, it relieves.
Okay.
So I would give them an opportunity to process what this experience was like for them as a whole. The idea is that they can connect with each other and find solace in each other's comfort.
Right.
Then we would do some sort of an experience where we honor the ones who were lost
Okay. Yeah.
and acknowledge the responsibility that it is
Mm.
to have a stayed alive. This is where the cognitive behavioral therapy piece comes into play.
Right. Right.
I'm transforming this idea of why am I alive? I should have been dead, to now you have a responsibility to live for them.
Mm-hmm.
And now that you live, you have this opportunity to live.
Yeah.
Take it even more seriously.
Right.
And through that, I would say, how do we want to honor them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And a lot of times in a setting like that, when the purpose is scoring or winning the game or what have you, it becomes about honoring. But what I would say is, it's not about winning or losing now, right?
Yes.
But I would say that this is about doing the best you can
Mm-hmm.
in their memory,
Yeah.
right? Thinking about them and making them proud in a sense by doing your best, whatever that's going to turn out to be.
Wow. Yeah. Wonderful. Thanks for sharing. I love that. I love that. So I'm looking at the informations, and you had the opportunity to work at Twin Towers Correctional Facility and Men's Central Detention Center. What were some of the challenges that you would have faced with those who were incarcerated, in terms of their mental attitude and the challenges that they would have faced, and how did you deal with them?
I want to thank the deputies and the system for allowing me to be there.
Right.
I want to acknowledge how hard their job is,
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
how painful it is.
Wow.
So what I'm about to say is in no ways like
Mm-hmm.
dismissing them. I get
Okay.
it. It's
Okay.
horrible.
Yeah.
But because of it is so traumatic to work in that setting,
Mm-hmm.
they both sets, the inmates and the deputies, were
Yeah.
both very much in a trauma response state.
Okay.
And I think that was my biggest challenge.
Right. Right. Right.
For again, because of the way I was raised, right? One of our most important values is humility, equality, valuing of human life, no
Yeah.
matter
Yeah.
what's going on with them.
Yeah.
But when your own life as a deputy is always in danger,
Mm-hmm.
you are outnumbered,
Yeah.
it is hard to remember
Yeah.
that everyone is equal. There were so many who did. There were
Yes.
so many that were really good at creating this
Yeah.
balance.
Yeah.
But there were also ones that were struggling because, again, their own lives were in danger.
Yeah.
So it created this negative dynamic between
Mm-hmm.
some of the deputies and inmates, and
Mm-hmm.
this concept of negativity towards the inmates,
Yeah.
right? Because imagine you having people who have tremendous trauma, reactivity, aggressive behavior, and they're projecting it to you.
Yeah. Yes.
And sometimes unintentionally, you're projecting it
Uh-huh.
back.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the hardest piece for me to negotiate, right? The second piece was the way in which obviously they didn't trust me. They didn't have a person to just met
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I had to prove myself to them.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And I worked there for 4 years. I worked at Linwood for a few months, but I've done this for majority of my career before I went to full private practice. My research was around the same area. Only 2 cases, and now by now 3 cases out of all the hundreds of millions of people that I have worked with that actually were antisocial personality disorder,
Mm.
who were truly because of significant experiences of trauma,
Yeah.
or there was no empathy, there was no regard for human life.
Okay.
You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that term is thrown around so easily for people who are very traumatized.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those were my main struggles.
Yes. Wow. Great. Wonderful. Um,
And any disrespect towards any group.
yes, exactly. I'm in total agreement. We are currently in what most people would call, Dr. Massa, post-COVID period, right? But I have seen some statistics with regards to medical personnel, professionals, doctors, nurses, about increased levels of depression, having to deal with all the stuff that they had to go through during the height of the COVID. Have you had the opportunity to work with people like this, and how was that experience like for you?
I'm so glad you bring this up.
Yeah.
If there are truly any angels among us, they
Uh-huh.
would be them.
Wow.
What
Wow.
they went through is
Yes.
unimaginable.
Wow.
And show up for work,
Mm-hmm.
personally couldn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my highest regard is towards them. And then there's the firefighters, and there's the EMTs, and
Yeah.
there's
Yeah.
the police, and everybody that kept us going through that. Because when we think about trauma, what is trauma? There's the little t, the everyday bad negative experiences. And then there's the big T, the trauma of coming face to face with potential of death of yourself and others. And they did it every day after day after day after day. How much can a mind take
Hmm.
of being in the line of danger with the knowledge that it could have been prevented?
Yeah.
I think that is the core of the helplessness, you know? It's the same with people who are in military.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That helplessness and to show up and provide care when you see that there could have been an alternative
Mm-hmm.
is very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
From that, trauma is a state of fight, flight, freeze, and fawn, is a state of survival. But when it's continued and the body is flooded with cortisol and stress hormone and adrenaline, then eventually it starts to turn into prolonged helplessness, lack of motivation, sadness, hopelessness, depression, anxiety, so on and so forth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it didn't change, it didn't end, and they continue to show up. So when I would work with my clients, it was about giving them a lot of space,
Yeah. Okay.
express their feelings,
Yeah. Yeah.
to validate their struggle, to acknowledge their strength, and help them make meaning. The most important thing about trauma is to make meaning.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah. Very interesting indeed. Have you done any publications at all, or are you considering doing any publications based on your expertise and your experience?
So the first, well, I haven't published it, but I do have my dissertation.
Yeah.
Former gang members' childhood experiences, or childhood experiences of former gang members and its impact on further gang involvement.
Okay.
I do write a little bit of, articles and stuff that we
Uh-huh.
post. I'm raising an amazing 5-year-old who's an artist, already performed at 3 years old. She loves the
Okay.
stage, so she keeps my hands really busy. So I end
Mhm.
up doing just the little ones. Down the line, hopefully I will have the time to do further publications.
Okay, great. So, what does the future look like for Dr. Massa in terms of accomplishment, achievements, any specific goals, visions, desires, things that you want to do more than you're doing now?
So I have to give credit to my husband, excuse me. That's
Sure.
cool.
Ah,
So my husband came and joined the practice in 2018. His name is Ruse. He's
okay.
a professional ADHD coach.
Uh-huh.
He runs the business more than I do. And so together we have Heal and Thrive Psychotherapy and Coaching. We do have other staff on board. And so we're continuing to build Heal and Thrive. My ultimate goal, in addition to raising an amazing human being, is to help really, very successful, achieved individuals that are really stuck. I've spent a lot of years in the trenches. I've worked with a lot of different populations through addiction, through trauma, childhood trauma, adult trauma, criminal behavior, victimization, severe mental health issues. And it really trained me in understanding the complexities of life.
Okay.
So at this point in my career, I really like to work with people who are very accomplished but very lonely.
Oh, all right.
The
Yeah.
wounds of the past are holding them back in ways that they don't know.
Mm,
You know,
yeah. That's
that
interesting.
unlocking that happens,
Yeah.
that their true potential shines. They
Mm-hmm.
come up to me and say, "Well, I did this."
Mm-hmm.
No, and I was like, "I didn't know you were capable of that. You didn't know you were capable of that." I'm like, it just happens.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Their true nature shows, and I feel like it's a very successful yet very misunderstood population.
yeah.
And at this point, I want to reach out and
Right.
help improve quality of life.
Yes, yes. Wonderful. I like the philosophical approach mixed with your expertise and the things you said that you have learned as a result of the diverse amount of people that you have worked with in your profession. So, Dr. Massa, we are coming to the end. We just have a couple minutes again. And I want to give you the opportunity to share your information with people, how they can make contact with you, because there are many people out there that are struggling, that are hurting. They need your expertise, they need your help, your facilitation. How can they reach out to you for your support and your professional services?
I appreciate that. Excuse me again. My apologies. I want your listeners to know that no one, under no circumstances, deserves to be alone with this. Whatever the outside looks, there's always one within us that shares and keeps our vulnerabilities. And I want
Okay.
your listeners to know that they're safe with us.
Okay.
We don't ignore anyone. We answer every call, every email,
Yeah.
and we try to provide support and assistance in the ways that we can. We do have different therapists and
Yeah.
coaches.
Yeah.
We are Heal and Thrive Psychotherapy and Coaching.
Yes.
I will offer a free consultation for any of your listeners that like, or viewers that would like to contact us. There's a consult option on our website. So
Mhm.
all you have to do is to go on heal-thrive.com. We also show up as Heal and Thrive Psychotherapy and Coaching on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We are on all of the social medias.
Yeah, you're on YouTube as well?
Not YouTube, not
Okay,
yet.
okay. All right. Okay. So all the other social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn as well?
Yes, LinkedIn as
Okay.
well. I
Okay.
was like, "This is the fourth one."
Good. Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. Dr. Mahsa Hojat-Khoshniyat
Yeah.
has been with us for the past 45 minutes, and she's been sharing some really amazing and wonderful dynamic healing information for people that are challenged with trauma, childhood, adolescents, teenagers, those who are involved in marriages and careers and so on. So make sure and contact her if you know someone or you're experiencing problems like that. She has been through many different areas of working with people with challenges like that and has a wide form of experience together with her husband. They're going to make sure that you get the information necessary to find your process of healing. So we want to thank her so much for taking the time for being with us on Andy's Personal Development Live in the breakout room. And until next time, I am saying together with my guest, Dr. Masa, please seek healing, seek help, seek hope. And remember our three watchwords: health, happiness, and prosperity. Until next time, this is Andy of Andy's Personal Development, along with Dr. Masa, saying so long, Godspeed, God bless, Namaste. Bye for now.